Robin, I missed you,
Hey, my
man.
brother.
Good to
Shalom.
shalom, shalom. Good to see you.
Yeah,
It's been
good to
like
see you too.
forever. I guess the last time I saw you was at the Grand Ole Opry, I think.
It was.
That
Yeah,
was
man,
quite
what a
an event.
time. I mean,
Have
that
you
was
been
a
back?
big time
Yeah,
together.
have you been back since that? I don't know if you've
Well,
even.
no, that kicked off the dismantling tour.
Yeah,
And so we started from there. And then the next one, well, I went to Montana, but that wasn't part of the dismantling tour. That
yeah.
was on the Crow Reservation. And
Okay.
then we went to Mississippi, Philadelphia. And that was part of it, as at Marty Stewart's theater down there, and
Okay.
that was like another Grand Ole Opry, and
Oh,
so,
really?
yep. So,
Is there one in Florida coming? I don't know if you had a date set for that or
well,
what
there's
was.
no date set on it yet, but we're
Okay.
working on it, and
Okay.
Yvonne and Mina, we're all working on that, and
Well,
but
this
it's
might be.
very important.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're going to be doing that. And when we were there at the Grand Ole Opry, and I said, "Is it true, Robin? We were up, we were on the stage, you and me and Kent, that you're going to do this through 2030. You're going to have
Mhm.
these dismantling." And the crowd went ballistic, like that was the most joyous news they had heard. I
Yeah.
was stunned at
Mhm.
because I had always felt, and I'd even said, when Trump comes back, we're going to need prophets more than we've ever needed him. But when we were there
Yeah.
only a couple months ago now, Trump was well back, and you
Mhm.
could see the absolute zeal in their heart that the prophets were still speaking
You
to them.
could, prophets, prophets have to, they have to. I don't know that a lot of prophets realize what they were used for in the last 4 years, um, since 2020, and now it's of course 5 years, but I'm talking about 4 years to that election.
Yeah.
We prophets. I don't know that they realize what they were used for. See, things begin to set in motion, and they were set in motion for something terrible to take place, really since 2008. And it began to be set in motion at that point. The problem is that uh, is that the body of Christ as a whole, and people and the humans as a whole, they can't put together a picture if something happens here and then 20 years later something else happens. They don't realize it's the same
It's,
picture.
it's all connected.
Yeah, and they can't see that because, and that's designed on purpose so that you can't see that.
Hmm.
It's so that you never connect the dots, along the way.
Yeah.
And that's what happened. And it was, I mean, this thing was a real war, and it has remained one. And the prophets were used in that time, and because the delusion and the illusion had got so strong that people couldn't see their way out of it. That was the only way that COVID was perpetrated. That's the only way anything happened in the world the way it happened, is that illusion had to come on the scene and change the perception. And see, what you were witnessing was a painting being made. And it
Really.
started in those days. And I know people would say this, and they say, well, when I say what I'm about to say,
Yeah.
they say, well, are you saying this? And that's kind of like you asking a
That's like
question.
what that sounds like what I would
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, but they say, "Are you saying this? Are you saying that?" Whichever this answer was of what I'm about to say, Satan was for sure the one behind it all.
Hmm.
Because, when you go back and look at 9/11, and you look at all of that happened. And good and well as, I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look and see that a building like that, when it comes down, don't go straight down. There's no way it collapses straight down.
Now
I
we
mean,
talk about. Are you talking about 9/11 right
yeah,
there?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no way it comes straight down.
Right.
And the only time you see a building collapse straight down is when it's took down on purpose in the middle of a city. They
Exactly
can
right.
strategically bring it down. Well, you start looking at things, and there should have been a building of that size should still have an airplane stuck in the top of it.
Exactly.
And
If we
it's
had
still
said
standing
that,
there.
I don't know if you remember. I don't know how your process was compared to to
Mhm.
mind, but if on the very first day
Mhm.
of when you and I were getting together, together,
Mhm.
if someone had said to me then, those buildings were taken down, I would have said, number one, I'm not sure that I believe that. Number two, don't say that on
Yeah,
the program because I don't, people will think we're crazy because we were slowly waking up one dismantling of,
that's right.
at
That's
a
right.
time. Yeah. So,
Well, and what you witnessed was the first. Now, I'm talking about Satan's brush now,
yeah.
because people can say, "Well, you think this did it." Well, all of that'll come out. It was prophesied it would come out, what happened. But you're looking at the first stroke of a brush. If you remember, President Trump even said back then, he said, "I build those buildings. They don't fall like that.
Yeah.
They don't come down like that." And both of them fell the same way and didn't hurt anybody. Well, you say, "Well, what was that?" Well, it was the first stroke of a giant painting that
Wow.
had begun. And
Wow.
what it was that this now I'm talking about Satan's. You got to picture
Yeah.
his hand and his brush painting. Now he's this painting begins. And when it begins, notice it instead of inspiring the way people usually rally together, what happened is it began to all of a sudden you couldn't speak against terrorism, you couldn't speak against Islam, you couldn't speak against all this stuff. Music stars were taken down because they wrote a song that put them down, put those terrorists down the way they did, and all of a sudden everything started turning to appeasement. And what you were looking at was a big brushstroke of something moving toward a one world government.
Gee.
And it started painting the first corners of it. And it doesn't you say, "Well, we don't know who took that down." Well, right now, just don't think about that. Think
Yeah.
about what it produced.
Yeah.
And then this brush stroke started. Then the next thing that happened is you have George W. goes overseas and he begins to wage war on these certain places that to this day is not proven anything was even there, really. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, at the time, I felt like I was supposed to support and believe,
well,
and
I did support. I always
yeah, and
support the
he said
nation.
there's weapons of mass destruction,
Mhm.
and there were in this one case, one case, Robin, the left was screaming that there was no such thing as weapons of mass destruction, and I thought they were just being disloyal.
Mhm.
In this one case, they were right.
Well, or either they were. We have to remember something. Warfare is fought. The biggest part of warfare and the most powerful part of warfare is not guns, bombs, and
Yeah,
ammunition. The biggest and most powerful part of warfare is in the psychological realm.
hearts and minds.
It has to be won or lost there. And there could have been, and then suddenly they were put somewhere so that someone else looked like they were right. I mean,
I
there's all
see. Yeah,
kinds of things that could have been taking place.
there's so much illusion that went on and
That's
is still going
exactly
on.
right,
Yeah,
illusion. And so what happened is the painting started growing and it started getting more clear. But it's only painted a frame at a time so that you and I will look at it and you don't see the whole picture. It's not like a puzzle box handed to you with the whole picture on it.
yeah.
You're only seeing it develop, and so your perception changes frame by frame. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, if you had a puzzle to put together and you lost the
Yeah,
box, you just had
and
a
you don't have
bag.
no idea what the picture looks
Yeah,
like
you just have to try and find things that look like they're similar and
or the
slowly. Yeah,
shape.
yeah, yeah,
And watch this now. Hear the way I'm going to say this. Then things begin to shape up,
yeah.
and you're just building it, but you're not allowed to see the end picture. So as it's painted, you're made to believe each brush stroke. You're made
Hmm.
to believe each thing is this way. And so it takes time. It takes time for mass hypnosis to set in. See, it when somebody hypnotizes people, and that's as demonic as it can get.
Yeah,
It's not look at the watch.
Yeah.
That's not what's doing it. That's something to focus on while they're words. You give yourself to the words being spoken until it paints a perception and a gaslighting situation until you're in those words and you believe that situation.
Yeah.
And that's mass hypnosis. And that's done. It's done just as easy on a mass scale as it is an individual scale. If you've got television, radio, social media, government, you've got all this stuff painting this illusion, and you're only allowed to see one frame at a time. Does that make sense? So
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's the way, you are saying Satan did this thing, but at
sure,
the same time, these are the rule Psalms too. These are those who
that's right.
conspire against the Lord and these are real human beings conspiring
Absolutely.
with Satan to
Absolutely.
do this to us, to
Yes.
create this illusion.
Yes, and that's exactly right. Real
Yeah,
people were involved in doing this.
yeah,
I'm gonna tell you something that should stun everybody and just make them just kind of vibrate a little bit in their body, their mind. Remember the video that came out during all this time, this last 4 years, when they pieced together every newscaster across the liberal media, and they said verbatim what the other one said until they played them all at the same time, and they were saying exactly the same thing, even had the same inflection in their voices as the other one did.
gee,
And
yeah,
it was, I mean, it was dozens saying the same
yeah,
thing. Now, that ought to tell you something. See, that's called focus on this while you listen to the words. And before you know it, you can be talked into anything. The
yeah.
next
Every time you switch the dial, they're saying the same words,
same
the
thing.
same inflection with the same thing. They did that also,
Yeah.
Robin, when they would say
Mhm.
over and over and over, this is the safest, most secure election in all of history. They
Sure.
would repeat it thousands and thousands and thousands of times.
But see, what
Hey,
that's like is this: stare at the pen,
yeah,
but listen to my voice.
yeah,
And so, what you're focusing on, and then the words just right begins to change your perception.
hmm,
Remember, Noah Harari said it'll be just like a screen we pull down and everything will change. He's talking about perception. And so another brushstroke, 9/11, the buildings, you stare at the buildings, but listen to our words. Now you've drawn this conclusion, and you've only drawn the conclusion that was painted in your thinking. So then you starts coming on. Now you see another brushstroke. Okay. Now things begin to change. And you so gradually has been shown this to you, so gradually that you believe every frame. And now your mind, they always give you a focal point along the way while they tell you what's going on. So you've got this image that this is what's happening.
gee,
And this is called real mass hypnosis, so to
yeah,
speak. It's called illusion. And what happens is this: they can put trigger words in you, just like an illusionist or a hypnotist.
yeah,
But you can't be hypnotized unless you give yourself willingly to the hypnotist. You have to willingly give your soul over to them to listen and watch. But once they do and they're all in, they can give you one trigger word and a whole audience acts like a chicken all at once because that's what they're supposed to do.
they programmed it into you.
Absolutely. Now, what happens is, now this is nothing new. It's just the first time we've been able to do it. Satan's been able to do it through media.
Well, and there's a term for it that I think the CIA came up with it, but it was called Project Mockingbird, where they had at 4 a.m., every single media outlet in the United States was given their exact talking points. You will read these words, you will say this. And they
And they
did.
all, and they all
Yeah.
said it at the same time.
Yeah.
We saw that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what happens is it's like when we were fighting the Japanese in World War II. What happened? You had people like Tokyo Rose, and you had all these people
Oh,
coming out,
right.
and
Yeah.
it was propaganda. Listen to my words, and they're painting pictures. Now, if you think that's something new, Remember when Elijah, well, you don't remember it, but you've read it, where Elijah goes to Jezreel. He outruns Ahab's chariots. And then now that's very important about what we're talking about. The prophet outran the government. He outran
Crazy.
them. Now remember
Wow.
that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
he gets to the wall at Jezreel, to the gate of Jezreel. Ahab goes on by him, and Elijah stops at the gate. Ahab goes in and tells Jezebel what Elijah just did. He called fire down out of heaven. He did this, he did that, killed all the prophets of Baal, all the prophets of the groves. And then she sent him word and said, I'm going to do the same thing to you tomorrow about this time. And the Bible says when Elijah saw that, he went for his life. So a picture was painted and perception was changed, that Ahab had went in there and in private council mobilized the whole army to go kill Elijah at the orders of Jezebel. And he had a focal point because Jezebel had already massacred all the other prophets, all of them in front of, except the ones hid in the caves. So there he had this picture. He was listening to words and he finally saw it and he went for his life. Now, so that's nothing new. That's Satan's MO. That's the way he does it, because he has no power really. He has to lure you into a world that's not real. But here's the thing, perception creates a reality that real reality won't support. See, perception creates this world, this false reality that real reality will not support when it's brought into the real world. So if you're trying to live in a false reality, the real reality around you will not support that. Yeah, in other words, you can scream and cry and beg and plead and yell that you're a man all day if you're a woman, but real reality won't
Yeah, it
support.
won't support that. That's a good point.
And so but that's where we were. We were living in a world of reality by this time. Now the painting had been growing all this time.
Hmm.
And so we come up into a reality now where, watch this, you are a woman. And we've been listening to the words so long. People said, I am a woman. And then it was, you are a man. I am a man. And you are such a woman that you will have an operation to change yourself and your children. We will have an operation and we will do that to our children. And it was going on and on and on until it got to the point where the world had been painted into this big painting. Now we're halfway through the painting. And so while it's going on, now illusion has taken hold to the point where we see the WEF. We're not talking about Joe's All Night Box Shop here. We're
Mhm. Yeah.
talking about the World Economic Forum.
This is a wicked, wicked organization.
Absolutely. And see, here was the deal, Steve. The world, the Bible says that it's the love of money that's the root of all evil, not money.
Yeah.
It's the love of it. Most people that don't have any commit that sin. It's the love of it. So notice Satan picked the highest economic power he could. And while they're on stage, here comes a shaman witch. She walks out on stage. Her face is painted half blue, half something else. She's got on this real funky looking sombrero.
Now, which event
She's-
was this that this happened? Just
I don't know the year of it, but it's
okay.
easy. Any of your team could find it just that quick.
Okay.
And she walks out and she starts talking to the Economic Forum, but she's got this dark witch, this Satanist witch standing beside her. And she goes down coughing, rubbing her hands together, coughing in her hands and coughing on the heads of the WEF. But see, that wasn't shown until the painting was far enough into it that it was believable. Now they begin to show the power really behind this painting. So now the world is in a great illusion. Klaus Schwab said himself, the head of the Economic Forum, he said, COVID and all these crises that we're in, he said, this is not crisis. He said, we're in transformation mode. And he said, those who can make it through the transformation will be all right. So wait a minute, Klaus. He said that COVID's not a crisis, it's a transformation agent. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
Well, and then Harari's talking about our perception being changed and all of this happening. Now we're halfway through the painting. And so now the men are women are men, mindsets have changed. It all began with a terrorist attack way back, and it all began when Obama in 2008, suddenly there was a whole timeline stolen out of the scripture in 2008, and somebody had to have biblical knowledge to know that, to have done what they did in 2008 and 9. And if we had time, I could tell you how that happened. But somebody had to have the knowledge of the scripture to know what time we were in, to have done what they did. And so we know that it's a spirit behind it all. So here we move into that. Then we start looking at the WHO, and the health crisis was all transformation mode, remember? So then we get to the WHO, and Joe Biden and his administration was signing over our sovereignty to the WHO, that when there was another pandemic, that they would make all the decisions like martial law, so to speak, coming over America. And we was going to give our decision making over to the WHO.
Wow. Is this that picture you're talking about, by the way?
Yeah, there it is, right there. And if you watch if they go look at the video of it, you watch her go down and cough on each individual.
Unbelievable.
Now, why would you do this? And more than that, why would they let her? I mean, why would they let her do this?
They willingly either because this is groupthink or because they're all in on the occult side of it.
It was showing you that all the way back to 2008, 2001, on 9/11, 2000. I mean, as you just progressed, you're looking at what was behind it. And when they thought they had perception changed enough, then they began to show it without reservation. Then you saw all these ceremonies, the Gothard Tunnel portal being dedicated, recreating the ceremony of Pan, all the way down to the Paris Olympics, where the covenant of the covenant table was desecrated, and it was Revelation chapter 9 was portrayed. Everything. Now people say, well, I don't know about all of this. Well, then you need to wake up.
Yeah.
Because by this time, it was this. This is what's going to happen. And then they started talking about making people not human, but cyborgs, and making them part with chips, part with cyborgs, and then straight up AIs. And so you start to notice this stuff. And right now, China has come out with a robot, a humanoid type robot that can carry a baby and give birth to this baby. And so,
are you serious that it could actually?
Yeah. I mean, this was a report on CBN.
Created a usable womb, are you saying?
Yeah. And people ought to go look at that. And it was on CBN. It ain't just me pulling it out of the air.
Yeah.
It was a real report. And so that shows you what Harari was saying. He said some of it will be chips, some of it will be like part machine, and then some will be straight up AIs.
Oh my gosh.
Trying to mingle, and those robots are supposed to be able to be fully interactive with a human. Just let your mind go that way. And you can see where it was headed.
Unbelievable.
And so
Robin.
why would Harari he said, when the interviewer asked him, said, well, will we be human as we, he said, well, not as human, you won't be. He said, he said, we don't need so many humans anymore. He said, it'll be kind of like, well, we do need them for data, he said.
And it's
For
preparing
data.
the way for absolute depopulation, the death of
And
millions and billions.
see, now we can't see the whole picture yet.
Yeah.
So everybody over the period of 20 years, 25 years has been seeing a little bit of the picture, listening to the words at the moment, and looking at the pen. And so by this time, it's accepted up to this point.
Yeah.
Now, the Lord knew that this thing was going to have to be broken. If it wasn't broken, we were going to lose it all.
Yeah.
And
Lose
so
the earth, basically.
that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And see, so what was going to happen was this. It had to have, now watch, remember this. Elijah outran the government.
Yeah.
The prophet outran the government. And so what happens was this. The world was in such an illusion. The church was powerless. They locked their doors. If the government told them lock their doors, they locked them. If they told them don't drive downtown, they didn't. People were driving around in cars with a mask on their face and the windows rolled up. I mean, you're in a bubble with a painter's mask.
They're
A
trying to
Dollar
protect
General mask.
themselves from themselves in their own car.
Well,
it's lunacy. It's like,
and one of those little cloth masks or paper mask, that's to stop a virus. That would be like throwing rice at a chain link fence.
Yeah, it goes right through it.
But there's no, and then standing 6 feet apart. Are you kidding me? When you sneeze, your mucus flies across the room at 150 feet. There ain't no way that's 6 feet's going to do anything. What was that? Look at the pen. Stand 6 feet apart. Wear the paper mask. And then we were told ridiculous lunacy stuff like you go to a restaurant. You have to put your mask on until you get to the table. And I think about, Steve, what we were seeing.
I know.
You have to wear the mask till you get to the table. Why? Because it paints the picture in the soul that the virus can't touch you as long as you're wearing your mask walking to the table. But when you sit down at the table, the virus is helpless to get to you. And so it's crazy.
Well, and they did the same thing for airplanes. You have to have your mask on the airplane until we serve you your meal, and then you can take it off, as if the virus will now knows to behave itself.
It knows.
And not go anywhere while you're eating and chewing your food.
Here's what's happening. This will take place. And then now we're going past halfway of the picture.
Mm.
We get down to around the picture being completed. And Harari says this. He says, he said, 2020 was the year that men agreed to be surveyed under the skin. Now we have to ask ourselves what he's talking about. Then he says this. He says, men gave up an enormous amount of freedoms in 2020. He said they gave up more than we ever thought they would, or that anyone ever thought they would. I think something like that. He said they gave up more freedoms than anyone ever thought they would. Well, and they agreed to let us survey them, to be surveyed under the skin. So he said, now humans are hackable animals. But then he ties it to this. He says, the God of the Hebrew Bible. Whoa, now everything has changed. Now we're looking back at the WEF and the shaman witch. We're looking back at the religious rituals as CERN was doing. We look back at the Gothard portal. Now Harari himself mentions the God of the Hebrew Bible. All he managed to do. Well, okay, wait a minute, Harari. Wait a minute, Yuval. Hold on, Noah. what's happening here? Why would you even bring the God of the Hebrew Bible into this conversation
Yeah, exactly.
and name him the God of the Hebrew Bible? He didn't say
Yeah.
Buddha, the God of Islam. He said the
Yeah, he could
God.
have named all the gods of the earth, but
He
he
could
picked
have
one, just one.
one God, because
Yeah.
the Bible says the devils know there's one God
Yeah.
and they tremble. But yet a devil, a demon can't confess Jesus Christ came in the flesh, but they know there's one God.
Yeah. It's like, thanks for admitting it. You just caught,
That's right.
he's hoping he wasn't caught doing what he did, but he had to do what he did because,
Yeah. And so what he said after that, he said Jesus Christ rising from the dead is fake news. But he admitted there's one God. Well, that's a classic demon
yeah.
talking. So what he said was this. He said, all the God of the Hebrew Bible managed to do was create organic life. He said he created humans, giraffes, tomatoes. He said that's all he managed to do. He said, but we're going to go beyond the God of the Hebrew Bible and create inorganic life. And so that's when the woman asked him, and they got into this conversation about being not fully human anymore. Then he goes on, he keeps talking about this stuff, and he says, and then in an interview, he says this, he says, he said, in the Old Testament, if you disobeyed God, bam, drought. He said, drought. You didn't get no water if you made him mad. He said, he never says he don't exist now. Remember this.
Yeah. Yeah.
He says, but in this world we live in now, he said, we create our own water. We don't care. We make God as mad as we want to. It don't make us any difference now. So all of this now the painting is getting complete, and everyone, including a big majority of the church, is watching. And they're living in an illusional world, and their perception has changed because it's obvious it's changed. Take their temperature before you let them in the church. I mean, really? What does the Great Commission say? Lay hands on the sick and they'll recover.
Yeah.
Okay, the church ain't doing that. And so they're ordaining homosexuals in the pulpit, the Methodist church. All this stuff is going on. Everything's happening. Now watch. Right at the time this whole thing was there, the perceived world a man lives in is the world he makes all of his decisions in concerning the world he perceives to be the real world. But in 2020 and 21, all of a sudden, prophets were brought on the scene. Before the painting, when the painting started taking shape, the Lord knew. See, real hypnosis is done with words,
Yeah.
words in the soul. And the Lord knew he had to have words to break the spell of this thing.
That's good.
And so he brought prophets on the scene, and they started prophesying. And I remember in 21, I can only speak for me. That's why I'm saying this.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah. Go
In
ahead.
in 2016, when they were doing the Gothard Tunnel, I told there was a pandemic coming, a sickness. 2019, I said it would be an epidemic of some kind, a pestilence. Something was coming, international. Then in 2020, the Lord started prophesying the end of this thing. And 21, he started talking about Joe Biden would be put out of office. And in 2020, January of 21, in the inauguration, and the whom the bell tolls,
Yeah. I
and
remember
the few
that one.
minutes of
Yeah.
silence
You
was,
did that video on that.
yeah, all that was done. And then the Lord said in 21, said a shot heard round the world. Donald Trump won. Then he starts talking about this is going to happen, this is going to happen, that's going to happen. And the prophets started talking, boom, boom, boom. And people watching the pendulum and listening to the words suddenly started doing this. And the words of the prophet started shattering
Yeah.
the words of the mass hypnosis that had taken place. And the illusion was starting to shatter because what the prophets were saying was coming to pass. And they were seeing something in the future to come. And so it started bringing hope. Hope started shattering the darkness, and the light started coming in. And the only thing strong enough to keep the Antichrist spirit off of the earth is the prophets.
Yeah, that's true.
It's their mantles. And you know, the beast can't even come out of the pit until the two prophets finish their testimony. So we know what kind of spirit was shaping up because the prophets started talking. But the world couldn't see it, Steve, because the whole picture happened 20, 25 years apart from each other. And they couldn't see it. And they were being brought along so they would never connect the dots.
Yeah.
And the prophets connected the dots and went ahead into the future, saw what was coming. And I remember, and then some prophets ran, backed away, they hid. But then I remember when Trump, not that they wasn't real prophets, but they began to be confused about what their mantle was all about. And so then I remember, you know, we said it a lot, but 4 months before Trump was elected, I remember giving the word and said, now there's nothing will stop you from being president. You will now be the president. You've been anointed to be the president. You've been charged as the president 4 months before the election. Boom. Other people in the church everywhere never thought he would come back. But the whole picture that they were using was they understand times.
That's
and
good.
they understand laws. And only people in the occult and high positions understand those things besides prophets and Christians. They're operating on the same prophecies. They're twisting the prophecies, trying to combat it because they believe it. Notice Harari believed in one God. He believed in the Hebrew God of the Hebrew Bible. He never quoted another
He
one.
just basically said we can do what we want about him because he doesn't
right.
care and we don't care that he doesn't care.
That's right.
It's like, yeah, it's like, which is he's going to drop dead one of these days if he doesn't watch it. But I mean, because he's the God of the Old Testament is the God of today too. So
absolutely.
yeah.
And see, so he never counted on prophets coming in.
No, it's true.
But every time a real prophet spoke something in the future, now those words had to be contended with. And the occult world can't contend with that because they don't know how to defeat that. That came from a higher place in a bigger world than them. And it came from the court of heaven. It's like the Tower of Babel. When the Lord weighed the Tower of Babel in the affairs and the intent of man's heart, he said, Babel. That was their judgment. And you had to contend with that now. And it put a cap on that men couldn't go any higher. It was over.
But when you came along and the others, Johnny, Kat, all of the ones, Amanda, all of those faith began to rise among God's people who were prophetic themselves, though they may not be prophets, but they were prophetic and they wanted to hear. When you came on, one of the very first times you spoke, you talked about, and I don't know if you applied it exactly because I can't remember, but Ezekiel and these dry bones, and then one day one of them put their elbow up and then their knee up, and then they began to stand up. And I feel like that's what has happened over the last 4 or 5 years, is that faith has been swelling and swelling, and the body of Christ, from, if you could make a picture of it, it would be centered around the voices of the prophets, and it would be like a pebble in the ocean or a river, whatever, and it just begins to reverberate out, and all of those in the body of Christ are slowly waking up. You know, some are still on the fringes, but there's been a big old wake up call.
Oh, there is. And see, a biggest thing from prophets was this: hope.
Yeah.
Hope.
100%, Robin.
Hope is future.
Yeah.
Hope is the future. And the prophet goes into the future sees the end result and what God intends to do, and brings that memory back from tomorrow and tells the people today what's out there and what's about to happen, and it brings them hope. And
That's really
God
good.
sends a word from tomorrow into today, and it brings the people hope.
That's
And
really good.
then they start seeing it happen. And then the prophet goes further and brings it back, and then it happens again. And all of a sudden, this illusion is shattered. It's shattered that they had, and their painting came down to this place. Harari said this. We've talked about that fool long enough. So here's what he said. He said, this is what Harari said. He said, and the only reason I use him is because they call him the prophet.
Well, yeah, they consider him the ultimate prophet on the
Yeah.
earth, is what they do.
Yeah, and especially, whatever.
He's a
But
false prophet, and
well,
they
he is.
consider
Now
him.
that's a real false prophet.
Yeah,
You
that's a
can
real
see a
false
real
prophet. They consider him their real prophet.
yeah,
You know,
but I watched him panic. I watched him when the panic hit him, and they said, this painting was looking great. Boom. Do you believe Trump will win the election? It's likely, he said. He said, but if he does, it's going to be kind of the death blow to what we've done so far. And they said, he's just out there doing it anyway. He's telling you he wants to stop it. He panicked. So they brought all their people say, well, you just bring all your hope on Trump. No, well, wait a minute. They based their whole success or failure on one man being elected. Well, explain that. Let's look
yeah,
at it from their viewpoint.
yeah.
Why did they think he was the key to destroying their stuff?
Hmm.
It's because behind Trump was the power of the spoken word.
That's right.
It was behind him. See, Trump did something in his first term that people may not realize he did. He did something so powerful in the spirit, and he cemented his position. Number one, he held up the Bible and he said, this is what we'll go by. This is what we'll go by, he said. Well, when he did that, God came on the scene and said, huh, okay,
Yeah.
all right.
He he walked over to that old
He
antique
did, that's
church
right.
store, St. John's or something, and
Mhm.
made everybody on his staff stand there. Some of them didn't want to do it. And then he held up the Bible and says, we're
He
going to go
held it
by
up
this.
and he
Yeah.
said, we're going to go by this. When he did, heaven got involved immediately
Yeah.
because God is obligated to back his word.
Yeah.
And so El Gabor, the god of war, called his war chariot, just like he did when he
Wow.
came to the Red Sea from Teman. And he came and met Moses on the other side of the Red Sea. Well, he came, and the Bible said that when the Lord came down into that Red Sea from the other side with his chariots of fire and his horsemen of fire, there was a fiery tornado. And it said the Lord peeked at the Egyptians through the fire. He pulled the fire down and looked at them through the middle of the whirlwind of fire. And that's what happened. The Red Sea. Remember that where I went up on
On
was
the
it
6th, is that January
6th
6th?
January? Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and it was called a prophetic walk to
I'm
the Red
surprised you
Sea.
didn't end up being uh, tagged for that. You know what
Yeah,
I
they
mean?
tried.
Yeah.
They tried, but tell me how hard it is to do this. I'm standing way back from the building. And
Yeah.
I said this. I said, they're climbing the walls up there. I said, they're doing this. I said, chaos. And I said, nobody's stopping them. I said, this don't need to happen. We need to pray. And I just started praying. Well, what are you going to do? Put a guy in jail for praying and
Yeah.
praying that this
That's
stop?
true.
Well, I'm on camera saying stop. It needs to stop. And
That's
so
good.
the Lord
Yeah.
protected me. But
Yeah.
but here's the way it went. So it was a march to the prophetic Red Sea.
Hmm.
The Red Sea. And we found a prophecy the other day that they brought out that I had said that there will be a third party arise out of the party of the red. And I said, it'll be like a new life, so to speak, coming up out of the red. And this party will do this, this, and this. And the jackal will fall and this will happen. Well, that's what happened. MAGA rose up out of the red.
Oh, so you're calling that's the MAGA.
Yeah, because
Oh,
it said it'll be a third party, but it'll be kind of new life
yeah.
of another. And it just and the prophecy just happened just like that. And what it was is they panicked. Okay, the thing fell apart. And they invoked something about times and laws that they didn't realize they did. See, what has been will be again, and God requires that which is past. And so they're trying to activate the laws of time without God. Now, somebody like that shaman witch is the one who knows that. Somebody like Harari, an oracle of hell, knows that. Speaking for all this, for hell itself, you know.
Yeah.
And so you've got all these, somebody knows it. Now, if he don't know it, somebody's telling him.
In other
This
words, you're saying he didn't just stumble on it. Either Satan's feeding it to him directly, or
well, or think about this. All these, why would we think it's different if witches and Satanists come out and blow on the WEF? I mean, why would we think that? Why would we not think the occult was involved?
why would
Somewhere.
we not think that there's a lot of Christians to this day that I know of, some of them personally, they would say that didn't do anything. I don't believe in witches. That literally, Christians, born again Christians, many of them would say, "Oh, that didn't do anything."
Mhm.
Coughing on somebody. There was an occult activity going on, and Satan was behind it. It
And
does stuff.
one of the
Yeah,
highest organizations in the world invited
yeah,
him on the stage
yeah.
and
Paul
participated.
said, "We're not unaware of his schemes," but he said, "We, Paul, I'm not unaware of these schemes." But he
That's
didn't say
right.
you're unaware of them.
That's right.
So
And so what you've got in the highest form, he said you've got 4 classes of spirit: principalities, powers, rulers of the dark. And this is the lowest to the highest.
yeah,
Principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, spiritual wickedness in high places.
basis.
That's the spiritual wickedness in high places. I had a prophet friend of mine call me a couple years ago, and he said a friend of his is an ambassador to the UN. And he said he called him and said they've hired all these witches here at the UN. And he said because they believe a portal opened on Sinai and they need their power to take possession of it. That was during that Red Sea summit
Yeah,
they
and
had.
they're serious about that. This is not people playing with
Yeah,
ideas.
no,
This is like
that's right.
a in league with Satan himself on a
Well,
personal level.
and anybody, you talk about being an oracle of hell,
Yeah,
anybody that says Jesus didn't rise from the dead is an oracle of hell.
yeah,
I mean, that's it.
yeah.
And they call the man the prophet. Well, he says, "Oh, I'm not a prophet," but they call him that, and they all listen to him. When the bad folks all get together, they listen to him. And so, whether you believe, and I'm not talking about you, Steve,
Yeah.
but whether the people in general believe in all this or not, it's amazing how the highest of the high do. They all believe in it. And you got to look at Hamas. Hamas means evil. That's what it
Mm,
means. Evil. And watch this. They take dead bodies hostage. Who takes corpses hostage
that's
unless
wickedness.
something mighty dark is going on in an underground tunnel? You think of that.
No,
So,
you're talking about
mm,
occultic activities with dead
absolutely.
bodies to drum up power. You're talking about
Absolutely.
real things going on,
Absolutely.
not just wicked behavior. They're
Uh-uh.
trying to do something with it.
That's right. They have
Yeah,
to be. And anybody with BBs for brains knows there's more out there than just what you can see.
yeah,
There's invisible motion all around you all the time.
yeah,
And people know that. And governments know that. And a lot of this stuff that you see we won't get into all this, but a lot of this stuff you see in UFOs and things like that, a lot of it's government things built. A lot of it is high officials in touch with the other side and those spirit beings involved. And you see that because nothing can fly 16,000 miles an hour and take a sharp right turn without coming all to pieces.
Yeah.
But if you see a UFO and it's got rivets on it, it was made in this world. So you've got to, but they're talking to the other side. They know this. They're always, why do you think governments always had gods? Always had gods. Egypt had so many gods, but on their hieroglyphs, they had something called the boat of 1,000,000 years.
Wow.
And in this boat of 1,000,000 years, in the middle of it looks like something that resembles the Ark of the Covenant. And then they had these gods with a jackal's head and a man's body standing in the boat.
Hmm.
But then on each end of the boat was a tornado on each end. And people wonder what that tornado was. It wasn't a tornado, it was a wormhole. And what they would do was bend, this thing would collect energy, bend light, and they believed they could bring Set and all these other Osiris from the underworld through a wormhole and bring him up into this world.
Well, that was the whole thing about the pan thing and all those things they were doing.
Exactly right.
Is they absolutely, I always thought,
Mhm.
well, they're never going to be able to release something from the pit. How do we know that in league with Satan that they can't get something out of that pit?
Well,
They can't
anybody,
if God won't let them. But
yeah,
you know,
but you know who Jesus said was going to do battle with that portal?
yeah,
He said, my church will. Well, his church didn't exist then. Me and you stood right there in front of that cave, in front of the
yeah,
gate of hell.
yeah, we did.
And remember, we stood there, and all of a sudden, the Lord spoke to me and said, close this thing from its very origin right here. And so, but Jesus said, and the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, watching the ceremony of Pan.
This is that
Well,
spot where he says, "Who do men say that I am?"
that's
Wasn't that
exactly
the same
right.
spot? Yeah, where they
Yeah,
sacrifice the babies, throw them in.
that's
Throw
right.
them in. Yeah,
And in 2016, they recreated that whole ceremony at the Gothard portal. A Gothard
yeah.
portal. They recreated it all, went from hell underground to the top of the ground and brought Pan up to the top of the ground. And Jesus said at Caesarea Philippi, he said, my church will do battle with that. Well, his church didn't exist at that moment.
That
He
was
had
just
never rose from the dead.
yeah, the gates of hell. You're right. I never quite thought of it that way. He said the gates of hell will not prevail against the church, but you're right. The church doesn't exist yet. He's
Uh-uh.
prophesying.
He
He's
prophesied
prophesying.
2016 is what he prophesied.
Oh wow. Oh
And
wow.
he was prophesying that we
Wow.
would have to fight that.
Wow.
So prophets, I know we're out of time, but prophets on this side of the page after the election, we have to remember something. We absolutely, it was the words of prophets that broke that thing
It
that
really
had the
was.
world, the
Absolutely
perception. We
was.
shattered false perception. The words of the prophets, it wasn't us in ourselves that did it. It
Yeah.
was the Spirit of God, the Holy Ghost speaking through prophets, prophesying the future into that present situation, and it broke it all to pieces. And so Trump got elected on their last mistake they made when they put in a candidate without a primary. Sometime we'll talk about that. That was the last mistake in time he made, and he sealed that they would lose that election at that point. And so now Trump is in, and the
Yeah.
church has the greatest opportunity they've ever had to have total victory. But we cannot, if you sit back, I'm going to say this before I stop, Steve. This may be open up for another time for you and I. But here's the thing. The easiest war to fight is a defensive war. The only reason here in the South that we withstood in the South, now I'm talking about the South,
Yeah.
in the Civil War,
Yeah.
the only reason the South, for every 100 plants that could produce guns and ammunition, the North had 95% of them, and the South had 5. I mean,
Really?
the South was so outgunned, outmanned, out,
Oh, wow.
but
I
the
didn't realize that.
but the
Wow.
whole cause was wrong. The whole you
Yeah,
can't.
the cause was wrong,
It was
but
wrong,
had it not, yeah. Wow.
and I mean, God abhors slavery. You can't, you
Yeah.
can't. Okay, but here's the deal: the South was fighting and didn't even realize it when our founding fathers put in that declaration that all men were created equal, endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among these, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. When our founders did that, basing it on the Scripture, they doomed slavery that day. Slavery was doomed because all men, all of them, were created equal. And so they did that on purpose so that slavery would disappear. Well, when it came down to the Civil War, the South was fighting against that. Now, and remember, I'm a Southern boy. I mean,
Yeah.
my great great grandfather fought in that war. But here is the deal: the only reason the South lasted as long as it did was because we fought a defensive war.
Hmm.
They had to come down here. The Union troops had to come to the South and fight. We only got into the North. The South only got into the North a couple times and
So
was
you're
beat.
saying a defensive war is that the side that's on defense has more power than
Well, the
on
reason
the,
being is because, like in the South, we understood every tree, every
I
rock,
see.
every creek. The South, and I say we. I stand for what's right.
Right. I understand that. You're
But what
you're
I'm
making a
getting at,
point about even why the
yeah,
South lasted so long,
they did.
even though the cause was not
Even though
just,
they were wrong,
yeah,
they
yeah.
lasted a long time because they were set up waiting on them to come. They could anticipate the plan. Now they held the ground. So all they had to do was defend it.
Hmm.
So the church has won. Now we're in the ground to stand and defend what we've won. And if the church don't stand up and defend it, you're on the high ground now. They have to come up the hill on the high ground to take it. If the
Hmm.
church don't want to give it up, we will hold the high ground from here forever if we wanted to, because it's the easiest now. We had to climb the hill and take it the first time
Yeah.
and look at all the casualties. But now we're on the high ground. So we're in the easiest part of the war as far as defending it we've ever been. But the hardest part of the war, because now we're in a psychological war, and we never believed as a whole that it was that way. No, don't believe in prophets. Don't let prophets speak. Don't let this
Hmm.
happen. And the prophets are the only one of the fivefold that deals in tomorrow. And if you want to know what's going to happen tomorrow in government and in world events, you have to listen. You need to listen to a prophet.
That's right.
And so, in a way, we're in the easiest part of the war physically. All we have to do is stand up and speak,
You know,
hold our ground.
a little bit earlier you mentioned hope, and I was trying to figure out because earlier before I came on the air, like I'm talking about 20 minutes
Yeah,
before I'm going, God, why are you saying this to me? Why are you showing this to me? Because like 34 years ago, I was at the senior housing.
mhm,
I wasn't doing anything prophetically at all,
right,
and I was in senior housing, so I knew about some of the residents who had Alzheimer's. And there's this cute little
right,
lady. She's as sweet as could be, but in her mind she was stuck on one word,
right.
hopefully. And she would say hopefully, and then she'd go on trail, and then she'd say hopefully, and then she'd do something else. The Lord just has brought that up from time to time. And it was like I knew it was a positive use of that word. She
Yes,
wasn't doubting. She was saying, because she had a real pleasant demeanor. She was really sweet. And she would say, hopefully. So they used to call her Hopefully. That was her name because that's all she
good.
ever said.
Yeah,
And I felt, why are you showing me hopefully today, Lord? And then you brought up the word hope.
hope.
And I just think that was a confirmation that
Mm.
there's hope, even though there's a lot of negative stuff we talked about today. What I'm hearing is there's hope
There
for
is
the body
hope,
of Christ. There's,
and there's And see, we're in the greatest position to hold the ground we've ever seen. And
Wow.
I mean, we're in the greatest position. We even have the civil government behind us right now. We have the right president, we have the right people in office, and now the church can rise up and know, wait a minute, we're never going to act like we did on the other side of the page. We're going to now act like what we were called to be.
That's
We're
so
going to
good.
stand on the hill. Remember, when you've done all to stand, stand therefore, having your loins girded about, and talking about the armor of God. That's a military term. And it means when you've taken the hill and you've defeated every devil, stand ready to defeat the next one that tries to come at you. And
Yeah,
so,
it's like
yeah,
David took down Goliath, then they could release the troops to take down the rest of them.
absolutely.
You know, it's like this
So you
sudden.
understand what I mean about a
Yeah,
defensive war is easier
yeah.
than an offensive war unless you've got,
You're defending the high ground, which is the best ground. So
that's the best position.
yeah,
You've already taken it.
yeah,
Now, what do we do on this side? Do we just go back to what we were doing and just put on our snakeskin shoes and our $5,000 suits? And do we just stand around and say, well, everything's good now? You know, Trump is president. We're going to just win, 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 win. Is that what we're going to do? Well, that
there's
was the
no.
attitude that got us into the other position.
Yeah, yeah,
So on this side, we stand on the high ground and say, you're never getting this hill again. You're not going to get this again. And we stand and we stand for each other. We become the church. We have to become the church, the Great Commission church. And we begin to believe in the miracles. We don't coddle sin. We don't ordain
yeah.
sin.
That's good.
We never let somebody do this again. You know, I'm suddenly reminded of an old Disney movie
Hmm.
cartoon called Jungle Book.
Oh yeah,
And
cute movie.
remember the big anaconda snake
Oh yeah,
that he was, and his eyes would start doing like this. And whoever looked at him would suddenly get
hypnotized.
hypnotized, and he would just take them. But Shere Khan, the tiger, he got down in his face and started doing his eyes, look at me. And he just took his big paw and slapped his head down and said, I ain't got time for that. That's what he said. I ain't got time for that.
Yeah,
So we're part of the line of the tribe of Judah. And from this point on, Steve, when they start doing this, we need to take that big paw of the line and just slap it right down and say, we ain't got time for that. We ain't
that's
got time
good.
for that. We got a world to win. And we just step out there and start
Yeah,
being the church.
that's so
We're in a
good.
good position, Steve.
That's
Church.
really good. That is hope filled right there.
Oh, it
You
is.
know,
I
I
mean,
never thought of it that we now have the high ground.
we
Now we
do.
have to hold it. You know, occupy till I come is a military term. It didn't
That's
mean set
right.
your tents up and have a nice rest where you occupy. It means you take the land and you occupy it with power. You know, so
And we're the first position in how many years since 2008, since Reagan's day.
yeah,
We're in the
since Reagan's day.
we're in the first position ever to
Yeah,
occupy the high ground. And
yeah,
here's something prophetically for everybody to hear.